Hello and welcome to Real-Ationship Talk, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Teresha Young, relationship master coach, where we have open, non-judgmental, heart-to-heart conversations about love, self-love, self-care, dating and relationships. And for this week's episode, I am being joined by the wonderful Valerie Maksym. Welcome to the show, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited too. I absolutely am. So for everybody listening, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Valerie, who she is and what she does. So Valerie is a national qualified NPC figure builder, bodybuilder competitor. She's a high performance life coach and author of a book entitled Maksymizing Life. Empowering individuals to break free from their current circumstances and embrace their true potential has become an innate ability of hers, a gift that she cherishes and utilizes to its maximum to enhance the lives of those around her. Through leveraging her diverse life experiences and transforming the valuable lessons she has learned into relatable, practical guidance, she has discovered an unparalleled joy in not only her own journey, but also in witnessing the incredible growth and happiness of others. As a beacon of encouragement and a catalyst for change, her mission is to inspire individuals to escape the confines of their limitations and fearlessly soar into the life they have always dreamt of living. This beautiful synergy between personal growth and helping others manifest their dreams truly creates a powerful and purposeful existence for all involved. Oh, Valerie.
That's a lot.
That is a lot, but how powerful. Absolutely powerful. I love all that you stand for. And I would love for you to share with us a bit more about yourself and some of the key highlights of your life and your career that led you to doing all that you do right now.
Yes, thank you. It's been a journey, as you said. We're not given a life manual or when we're younger, like this is how you do things if you want to get here or get there. It's just life experiences. And, sometimes like me, not always on the right path for certain reasons, but I look at those as not as failures, but learning moments. I can't say I would go back and change anything because I wouldn't be who I am today. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But going through all that you go through, and then you're getting to this place at 52 years old, it's like, wow, I need to turn around and share some of the things that I've learned on my journey because, I love learning and I love hearing people's stories and what helped them and what didn't, because, hey, if I can shorten my time on some things, or I can shorten, from getting from point A to point B, I want to hear more. I want to hear, how you were able to go through things and not get stuck and not sit in resentment and anger, or even there's times that we don't have any closure. I think that's the worst, when you don't have closure.
Yes.
And I know for myself, I found when I didn't have closure on a few things, I was still 2 years later, believe it or not, 2 years later, still not able to really fully move on because I was just like, well, that they just wronged me and they won't tell me why. And they won't answer me. And, what did I do? And I don't, you're just stuck in this, almost like this hamster wheel of, okay, I need to get off of this. And so, just so many little things I've learned on my journey that, that's why I did write a book. And, not hopefully, I know it's already helped a lot of people, but that's my heart to just, pour out the things I've learned. And as I continue to learn things, continue to share.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And what you are kind of I'm sensing is an element of forgiveness work there. So I know 2 years, and I know that we can hold on for things and it can fester in us. And it can go, oh, I feel so angry with that person. Or how dare they do that to me? It can really fester. So did you have to do a piece of forgiveness work to know? Because in my mind, forgiveness isn't about condoning that person's behavior or actions. It is just allowing yourself to let go of those heavy, unhealthy feelings that we might be having. Well, I'll say unhealthy, but the ones that aren't really serving us.
Right. I really did have to dig deep into some of that because I've been divorced now for 8 years, and I dated one person in this 8-year window for about 2 years. And when that went down, it was really hard for me because I finally thought I found my person, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is everything I wanted. Thank you, God. Right. But then it didn't turn out that way. And there was a lot there that went on. And I felt very rejected. I felt very, like, how could you do this to me? I was, so good to you. I was all in. And something hit me during that process of just crying and being mad at God. And like, you finally bring me this person. It's like a tease, it's like you're wagging this thing over me and I finally have it. And then you take it away. And I had to really realize, like I said, when you're saying in forgiveness, I was so angry and not forgiving and, just praying that everything he did to me will be done to him, all those things, like karma can get you and you're just like, oh, just so angry. And I finally realized we're all given the power of choice. We all get to make our own decisions, right? We all, at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, he chose somebody else. I looked at it like he rejected me. He didn't reject me. He just chose somebody else that was better for him for whatever reason. And he has every right to do that, right? So I don't know why it took me 2 years hanging on and being so upset and not going on any dates, just being stuck in this just hole that I feel like I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging. And then you're just like so far down, you're like, oh my goodness, how did I get here? How do I get out of this? Because, this is never coming back together. You have to finally come to that decision and realize I wouldn't. Then I flipped it. I said, let's just say I found somebody else and I had told him I was moving on. I would not want him to spend the next 2 years feeling rejected and hurt. And because I wasn't trying to reject him, I just, at that point in my life, I would be making the decision that I thought was best for me as he did, thinking that was the best decision for him. And, moved on with what made him happy. So now I can look at it because I've healed. But okay, I'm happy for him. He found love. He found what he wanted. My day is coming, and that just wasn't the fit. But for some reason, we'll get stuck in these areas, and then we play victim mode, and that's not fair. And he did this and this to me, and it can all be right. But I don't want to be a victim. I want to rise up and be like, okay, that just wasn't for me, because on my journey, I've realized the things that are for me and the things that happen, the best things that keep happening to me, I couldn't have made these things happen. They just happen, you're just like, okay, these things that are mine are just coming to me. They're just attracting to me. It's like, there's no having to work it, having to be like making this relationship work or making, things work. It's just, they just are. And that's the place I want to be at. So even though my heart was crushed and all those things, and it was very hurtful, I've learned from that. And I've realized when it's the right person, the right thing, the right timing, at the end of the day, that's what we all want, because then that is going to last, in my opinion, when you find the right thing. I could be wrong, but from what I'm seeing, like when we have the right things happen, that can last a lifetime, right? Because now you're attracting the right things for you, the right energies, the right everything. And it's yours, and you're not having to fight for it. You have to, obviously, any relationship, work at it, but it's just meant to be. It's like, I like to say, it's like two magnets. You're trying to put the negatives, you're trying to put them together, and they're not connecting, right? But that's what I was trying to do in that relationship, really, for the 2 years on different things, like, just trying to continue to make it work. And then if there were things that he liked, I always faltered to do what he wanted to do, what made him happy, what never thought about my own happiness. So I learned a lot in that too, realizing that why do we do that sometimes when we date someone? All of a sudden, we like all their hobbies and all their things and what they want to do and what they want to spend the weekends doing. And why do we lose ourselves? So I did learn a lot in that journey to be authentic to me, no matter who I'm around. And even now I have a lot of guy friends, which is interesting. And I'm always myself. If I want to say something, I say it. I'm not being rude or mean or anything, but I've learned, and it was like life lessons that I had to learn. I didn't learn those at a younger age. I got married really young. I was never allowed to have guy friends. So I never was able to learn those lessons. And so now it's like, I'm learning these lessons. I'm learning how to have friendships with men and be myself and never cave to anything. This is who I am. Like, I'm going to continue to figure out how to make the best version of me and have that girl show up every single day and just keep being a better version. And every single day, just being me and letting my light shine. And then I know in the right timing, I will start attracting the right opportunities, the right people, the right friendships, the right networking circles, just all the right things, right? They just start attracting to you because I'm continually showing up to be my authentic self. My
Yeah,
old self showed up every day being unauthentic, didn't know who I was, just was like a leaf in the wind. And I just was floating here and there. And whoever was doing whatever, I was just like trying to fit in and serve and give and accommodate and make sure everybody's happy. And you can't live a life like that. I mean, that's an exhausting way to live.
completely exhausting. And what you share there is so inspiring. There's so many things that I'd love to touch upon in terms of what you said there. Firstly, that powerful reframe of turning that feeling of rejection into, okay, he just found something that was better for him at that
Right.
time. So you
Mm-hmm.
took his choice away from it being on you. It was like
Right.
he made a choice that was better for him. Likewise, the empathy. If I was in that same position, what would that look like too? So the aim isn't to make that person feel rejected.
Right.
So moving back onto the rejection, often rejection is a huge wound that most of
Oh,
us
yes.
experience.
To the heart. My heart was like ripped out in 10 million pieces.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've been there too. I think most of
Yeah.
us have been there, that feeling
Right.
of rejection, even maybe even abandonment as well
Right.
during that time is like, oh my gosh, and I feel abandoned to do. I
Right.
mean, there's so many triggers. Now,
Right.
often the feeling of rejection about something we believe we are feeling rejected about isn't actually in that moment. It could be something from the past that is triggering us. Did you find that all of these feelings of rejection from the past started to come up too in that moment?
Yes. And also even goes back to 12 years old when my dad passed away. I felt like I was angry. I was angry at him for leaving. I felt he abandoned me. A girl at 12 years old needs her dad. She's getting her self-confidence from him. The most important years are like 12, 13, 14, those years of your dad showing you how you're supposed to be treated by a man. And I was very, very angry and felt very abandoned. And the only thing I ever wanted, like literally when I pray from just being after he passed, was I wanted a man to love me. And I know I was in two relationships. I was married. And again, that's a whole nother stories, but I never felt unconditional love from either one of them. It was very always conditional with conditions and with, just you had to be a certain way and this and that, you do this, that, and that, this, you're loved. But if you don't, then you're not loved. I never was at a place in my life that I felt like that I could say that man really loved me. And I did feel like a part of that with the person that I was dating for those 2 years. I felt like this person really cares about me a lot, like just, or at least I perceived it the way he would talk to me and say things. And I never had that before. So yes, I feel like that was a trigger also going back to my past, because it's like, okay, I felt like all that I had been through was like, oh, now it's my turn. Now it's my time to have this. And then all of a sudden have it blow up in my face. And then it was, so yes, you're right. It did also trigger back to, then I was like in a deeper hole of, oh my gosh, this goes back from, my dad leaving, not feeling loved, the relationships I went to. I mean, just everything magnified, like you're looking through a magnifying glass. And then I just felt like my whole world blew up. And here I am, like at that time, how old was I then? Maybe 49, so you're just going, okay, this is, I've been this many years and can never say that I've been truly loved by a man. And here I thought I had this. And then now all of a sudden he's been seeing somebody else while seeing me. And then he chose her. And so then I just felt super rejected. I mean, literally my heart, I couldn't even breathe. I'm sure you know that feeling, like when you feel like your heart's just been like ripped out and just in millions of pieces. And then it's like, okay, how do I pick myself back up from this? And it was like, that's really the turning moment when I decided to write my book, really decided to be like, okay, Valerie, you are the common denominator, whether you like it or not, in all your relationships. So let's try to figure out what you're doing. Why are you attracting what you're attracting? I mean, let's see if there's things in you that we can grow and that you can become, stronger, happier, healthier. I feel like the higher that your energy, you just start attracting what you are, right? So I want to take myself to the next level. And so I was at that time, I just recently put two and two together about that moment, that my whole life I've been looking for a king. I want a man that, will believe in me too, but he loves me, he protects me, he cares for me, he provides for me, but yet he lets me have my business and do my things. And like, he'll support me and he'll uplift me and he'll be my biggest cheerleader. That takes a king that doesn't feel like he's inferior, or doesn't get jealous, or doesn't feel like, oh, you're talking in front of other people. They're looking like, I've been looking for a king, and I realized I haven't groomed myself to be a queen. So how am I going to attract my king if I haven't been grooming myself and been working on myself to be a queen? And so that's why I'm saying, when I was in that broken spot of saying I'm the common denominator, I was not where I needed to be. You have to grow into being the person you want to be when there's certain goals you want to achieve, right? You have to continually work on it, and whatever that might be. And so for myself, I've just really taken this last year or two and really diving deep into, how do queens act? How do they act when things don't go their way? How do they act if someone's talking about them? How do they act if, in all the different circumstances? Just really trying to raise my energy and just showing up for myself every day, and being the brightest light that I can be when I'm around people in the rooms I'm in, and genuinely being interested in other people and caring about them, and giving out. And I give out so much that I realize when I go home, I'm like, okay, I got to take back in. So I'm just constantly refilling myself every day with positive things and positive podcasts, and, meditating, and just be praying, and just keeping my cup full. So I can have more to give out, because I feel like I'm just giving out so much, but you also have to take and give, back in. My old self only gave out. So when I was back there and I was broken, I'm like, how did I get here? What do I need to do? It's because all I did was give and give and give and give and give. And then I started playing victim mentality of like, well, I did this and I did that, and I gave this and I gave that. And I was, you're just like, give, 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 give. But that was so off balance that wasn't even healthy in itself. Looking at that relationship, a healthy relationship shouldn't be one person giving everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's give and take in a healthy relationship, that balance between it. So I just love how you're saying how you move from almost this victim mentality to being a victor. And I absolutely love that empowered state that you found yourself in, and moving from a place of, dare I say, insecurity, to actually feeling more of a secure person, more secure within yourself. So that involves you creating more safety within yourself and in your environments, which also stems to creating boundaries. So what has been one of your biggest learnings when it comes to creating boundaries? What have you learned about yourself?
So creating boundaries, that's a very interesting thing that you say that, because I found when I went on this journey, which I really felt like I would be on my journey for about 6 months, I'd meet my man and be married. Little did I know that it was going to take 8 years. And on my journey, I realized what I was looking for the entire time. I was looking for in men, but what I was really looking for was self-love. I always thought the word self-love was selfish. I didn't like the word, like, that's weird. I don't really want to talk about it. My coach wanted me to have more self-love. I'm like, I have so much love that I can't even tell you. There's not enough room in this. There's not enough space in this room, all the love I have.
Yeah.
But that's giving out, right? So I did not realize I needed, my self-love, but I was always looking for that piece to be filled from a man. And so whenever I was on this journey, I realized that when I found self-love, I'm like, this is the feeling that I've been looking for. Like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, this feeling of, I can say no to things. I can go to dinner by myself and sit at the bar, whatever, and enjoy meeting people and not feel weird about being by myself. I can, go get a massage when I've done too much all week and I'm exhausted, instead of just like not taking care of myself. I know, when to say no to going to things, and, how to eat and sleep and get my proper care. And when I found self-love, I also found boundaries. Because when I had no self-love in those relationships, I so craved the attention and their love that I took the crumbs. I took whatever they would give me. So if somebody barely gave me anything, or barely spoke to me, or I saw them once or twice a week, or it was always on their terms, or I was just thankful for that time, that I was just like, oh, okay. There was no boundaries for me. Now looking back, I would never do that, because now I have boundaries that I know my value. I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table in a relationship, in a friendship, in a business thing, whatever I know. So I'm not going to allow people just to run over me or, just throw me whatever, like here, like they don't really care. Now I know, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. I'm good. But, and in having self-love, I don't get as attached to somebody, like, because I've had friends and guys that I'm like, oh, I'd really like to date them. And then as I got to know them, I'm like, oh yeah, no. But it's okay. I've been able to say no, because I know now the bigger picture of what I want for my happily ever after. When I see these different things, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to settle for that. So I know my boundaries, I know my self-love, I know my value, I know my worth. And it's a much easier place. Like when you're showing up in life every day with those like armors and those like little nuggets in you, that you have those things, it makes it, I feel like when things do come your way and disappointments do come, or you realize, oh yeah, that's the person I don't want to date, I get over it faster, because I know that that's not going to bring me happiness, for the rest of my life. And I'm now at my age, I'm not looking just to play around or, I'm not going to settle for things that are not my core values. And I know there's no perfect person, but there's still our core values. There's still our core things that, you need to have lined up with whoever that person that you're with, I believe.
I believe so too, because I believe that when you can have shared core values, it really helps for greater compatibility and connection with that person too. So thinking about your king, because you've thought about, you're looking for a king. And then in order to have that king, you need to be the queen. So what kind of core values would you be looking to be sharing with your king?
First of all, I want, core values is happiness and, laughter and friendship and, unconditional love and friendship, that we're each other's biggest cheerleaders. Like, he has his thing, his business, his hobbies. I want him to have his hobbies in his life. I have my hobbies. I compete, my business.
Yeah.
But having a trust in a foundation of, we're in this together. I trust you, you trust me. And that way, when we do come together, we have things to talk about. And then I also want to have our things that we do together, whether that be a hobby or we travel, or things that, when we're together, that, that we do those things. And I feel like when you find a king and a queen, I think those are the people that you see in life that you're like, man, that's a powerful.
I know, yeah.
Because when you show up, every cell in your body is energy. And I think I might have told you this before when we spoke, but it's all energy. So the way I like to look at it is, if I'm operating on all cylinders, I'm going to show up an entire fireball. My whole fireball is going to be like the whole round fireball's on fire. I am showing up. Every cell in my energy in my body is here. I'm present. Yeah. I'm here. I'm with you. And to get there, that means you have to have worked through forgiveness, because if you have unforgiveness, that fireball immediately gets cut in half. Because that's just, there's unforgiveness. And then if you have some resentment and you don't have closure on things, your fireball gets smaller and smaller. So many people show up this little piece and they're looking for somebody else to complete the rest of that fireball. So when you say my king, he's going to be the whole fireball too. Oh, yeah. When you have two people that are coming in a room and they're both like, there's no arrogance, there's no ego, there's no better than I am, better than you or anything, but taking the time to invest in ourselves to want to find this happiness, this, this intimacy, you want to have true intimacy, when you're looking for that only comes with trust, 100% trust. The more trust you have, intimacy just gets greater and greater, right? So showing up in a room together at events or whatever, and you have two people that know who they are, and they don't, if they're, pulled aside, we don't waver in who we are and our values. And, we're not like being shady or talking down about the other person. Like you're always uplifting. So that's when I say my king and my queen, it's like, life can be so much better. You can go so far in life. I have learned when you have a cheerleader. I have a best friend who's a guy, and he has been my biggest cheerleader for the past 4 years. Biggest cheerleader, writing my book. He sends me texts all the time. You're a queen. Don't settle for anything less. Like, you're a champion. And I tell him all the time, you have no idea that those texts come at the right time, because it's in moments that I just want to quit. Like I've been doing this for 8 years, and it's like, when is this going to take off for me? And I'm doing and showing up, and it gets tiring sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have someone who believes in you and continues, I have found that, wow, I really think I've only made it through some of these last few major pushes because of him. So how great would it be to be in a relationship when you live with that person?
Yeah.
You're both equally giving to, like, I'm uplifting him when he's having down moments. He's uplifting me when I'm having down moments, that we're continually always uplifting each other, believing in each other. I mean, how far could you go in life when you have that kind of a relationship?
I just love that, because it's like this power couple, this purposeful couple together who
Mm-hmm.
are in alignment, in complete alignment. And one of the big things that you said there was trust as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how fundamental that is to the dynamics of all relationships that we have, healthy relationships. And one of the big factors about trust is that we have to start trusting ourselves and trusting our decisions, and trusting that even if things don't seem to be going right, I can trust myself to make a choice that is going to be self-loving, that's going to take responsibility. Even if we are the common denominator in this situation, we can take responsibility for that and accountability and know that. But that takes trust in ourselves too, to be able to do that. And you mentioned about you mentioned about the bodybuilding and the competition and the competitive work that you did there. Were there any, like, thinking about it, were there any practices or habits from your competing experiences that you can take into a relationship? Any sort of, are there any nuances or anything that you can say, oh, I can take that learning and I can apply it to my relationships too?
I mean, it definitely takes a lot of commitment.
Commitment.
So you're committed. You're committed on days you don't feel like it. You're committed on days that you're tired. Maybe you have a headache. When you're competing, you're still showing up every day for yourself. And, knowing that not every day is the best day. Not every workout's the best workout. And there are days that I get in the gym and I'm like, okay, I set my phone timer for an hour or 45 minutes, whatever time I have. And I'm like, put my headphones in. And I said, okay, you just have to make it through. You don't have to, like, and there's just days I take the pressure off. You don't have to push all this heavy weight, but you have to do something for this whole time. And I just make myself get through it. So, I do think that there's just times that even in relationships that, maybe you're going through something, but you still show up. You still show up for that person. You're still there. You're still in the game. You're still, not every day is always going to be, sunshine and roses, because that's just not life. And we do learn and become stronger in our trials and in times that maybe we're going through things. So it's not necessarily bad when you have a king and a queen and you're working through things or you're seeing things on a different level. But I believe the key to that is communication, being able to have a safe ground space that you can communicate and say, well, I feel this way because XYZ. And then that way you can think about it. Okay. And so you're working through it. And then when you can really communicate and work through things, I feel like that makes your relationship even stronger. So I would never walk out and be like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to fight that. I think you do a disservice to yourself and your relationship when you just let it go and you don't really have that place to have that full on communication. But when you're in the right relationship, you should be able to have an adult conversation, in whether maybe you're just being silly. I mean, us women, sometimes we're being silly, right? We have our hormones. So maybe, but being heard, right? When you can communicate and you're being heard, and then they come back and then you're like, okay, you feel like you're heard. We're on the same page. You got it. Then all things are good. And then that strengthens the relationship rather than ignoring it, not showing up for the relationship, maybe being like, I don't want to be around him. I'm going to go out with my girlfriends for the next 3 nights. And you just kind of put that separation. You still have to, like I said, like even in the gym, I still showed up for myself when I worked out. In a relationship, still have to show up even on the hard days. But a lot of times on the hardest days that you show up, I know in the gym have been some of my greatest workouts.
Absolutely. So I want to talk more about, like, the communication piece and having that confidence to be able to speak up, and hopefully the person you're speaking to will be actually hearing, not just listening, but actually hearing what you're saying. But sometimes there can be some limitations or some fears about speaking up. And I know that you do work with people to help them to break the confines of limitation and fearless. So what are you finding showing up for the people that you work with? And are there any common fears and limitations that you're finding?
Oh, there's a lot of common fears and limitations. It's fear itself. It's fear of, well, wonder if I say that and then they leave me, or wonder if I say that in they just go to the worst case scenario. I wonder if I really say what I mean and that's not what they want. And then what? Now I have a bigger mess. Or, so you just have to get to a place that you're like, when you truly authentically know yourself and you're truly authentically showing up every day for yourself, there comes I don't know if you say attitude, there just comes a knowing that just being me is okay. And, if I'm not coming at a rude or a mean way, I'm just coming up authentically me.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you will lose some friendships. There are some people that will walk out because they can't handle it. And it is hurtful. It is, I've had that happen like multiple times with girlfriends and different friends. When I started showing up for myself and being authentic, it wasn't taken very well because they're like, what happened to the old Valerie that just did everything we said? Or, and it's like, no, I had to grow, and they're great people. There just sometimes comes a lot in life where not everybody's meant to be with us through every season, every chapter of our life. And there does come an end, and that it almost feels like a death. It is hurtful. It is, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, they just, they weren't, it was just our time to separate. It was like, okay, we were on this journey in life together, and now you're going to go this direction and I'm going this direction. And so I've just really had, as I'm going through my things, realizing that to not get so attached to everything and just show up every day for myself, unapologetically me, like they say, just being the best version of myself, having the best intentions, coming with a pure heart. And you're not going to please everybody. And that's not, we're not meant to be that way. So I feel like when you continue to do that and be that, you can communicate with whoever. So when you're saying, how do I communicate? How do we talk? When you're with the right people, they want to hear more. Like, okay, tell me more, because I love to ask more questions when I'm with a friend or whatever. And I was talking to a friend on the phone last night who's going through a bunch of stuff as a friend. And I just kept asking her questions. Well, tell me more. Like, why do you feel that way? Like, what makes you have that feeling about that? And why are you holding on so much? Just keep asking the questions, right? Because I don't want to be in judgment of her. I'm just truly trying to understand why she's trying to hang on to something that anybody looking inward, like outward looking in, would be like, okay, what are you hanging on to? Like, why do you feel the need to stand so firmly for this to take place? And so after listening to her, it's like, okay, I got it. I know what you're standing on. That's awesome. I support you. So when you're starting to feel upset and waver and crying in a situation, you got to remember everything you just told me and journal it and stand on that. Because if that's what your heart truly believes, it doesn't matter what anybody else is trying to tell you, whether to leave or stay or do whatever in your relationship. Like, you have to do what your heart tells you to do. And, if you need to, when you're communicating with the other person, like, you just have to always be true to yourself. And I think what sometimes people do, and I know I'm guilty of this in my past, we get a little passive aggressive when we communicate. You know what I'm saying? Because we kind of are like, you're just kind of, I don't even want to say manipulating, but you're not really saying what you want. You have to show up and say exactly what you want. Like, don't go beat around the bush. I used to just beat around the bush because I kind of wanted to feel the other person out to see if they maybe felt the same way I was feeling. So I wouldn't really say exactly how I truly felt, but that's not a good way to communicate. So I have just learned that, you know what, take a deep breath, and I'm just going to share where I'm coming from, why I'm coming from here, what I'm feeling. And I have to know when I say that to the other person that they could just look at me and walk out of the room and say nothing. And I need to be okay with that, because I am saying my true authentic self, and I can't have any expectations that they're going to come back and say, you are so right. I am so behind you. You know, everything you said. Yes. You have to always speak your truth. There have been times that, in my single life here recently and stuff, I have friends and different guys that I'm like, I would choose you and date you if it was possible, but they've made it very clear they don't want to date. And I what do you want to say? I respect that. But I also speak my truth because I don't want that person to ever not know where I was coming from and what I was feeling. But at the same time, when they haven't said it back to me and I don't take that as any form of rejection. I'm just like, I'm just thankful that I have your friendship and
Yeah.
we have enough of a strengthened friendship that we can speak,
Mm.
truth to each other. And I still care for you as a friend. And I don't ever have to go on a date with you for the rest of my life ever. And I still value your friendship. But at the end of the day, I do want you to know how I feel about you, because we have to tell people how we feel, right? We have to tell people
Yeah.
and not hang it, hold on to it. But it's being vulnerable. And I have had to learn vulnerability. The one way that I learned I like to give stories and analogies because that's really how I
Yeah.
remember things. And so for me, in part in my book, I had walls up, like walls above walls. And I really was trying to understand why I have so many walls up. People would always say, you have so many walls up, like you can't even get close to you. Like you can feel it. Like you can. And I had walls up because I have been hurt so much over my lifetime that another wall would come up, because I'm like, okay, that didn't feel good. I don't want to have that happen again. So a wall goes up, like, and before you know it, you have all these walls up. And yes, I'm keeping all the bad out, but guess what? I'm keeping all the right opportunities, the right people, the right friendships, the right dating
Yes.
people, all of that I'm keeping out too. And so if you want love and if you want success and you want these things in your life and you want good communication and these are the things you desire, those walls have to come down and you have to become vulnerable again. And that
Yeah.
is not an easy thing to do. That is time. That can take years, but at least being mindful of it, that when you're in situations, oh, my walls are up again. Okay, Valerie, let the walls down, take a deep breath and say what you mean. Say what you mean, because you need to be authentic
Mm.
to you. And the
Yeah.
more you do it, I feel like it kind of like self-confidence. It's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more the more confident you get. I feel like it's the same kind of thing.
Mm.
The more you're mindful of it, and you can just take that deep breath for a second and be like, okay, I'm going to be authentic to myself. I'm going to walk in my truth. I have nothing to lose because I'm not going to have expectations for that other person to tell me what I want to hear. I'm going to speak my truth out into the universe to that person, and whatever comes back, and I'm willing to receive it. So if they come back and say, I would never date you, I'm tired of you saying this to me, and they don't talk to me again, I'm truly going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, because at the end of the day, at least I shared where I was coming from, and I
Mm.
will move on. And
Yeah.
next, I'm not going to put walls up, and I'm not going to say, oh, I'm never doing that again. No, because one of these times, me being true and authentic to myself, it's going to be the right person.
Absolutely. That vulnerability piece is absolutely huge.
Mhm.
And when you were sharing about you had that conversation with your friend and you said to put her to journal about it, journaling is one of the best things that you can do to help with being vulnerable, because you're being vulnerable to your thoughts and your feelings. And you're
Yeah.
able to sit down and you go witness exactly what you're saying to yourself, the self-talk, and witness it, honor those feelings, and to be able to reframe it. So you can say, okay, so how can I think differently about this situation? That does, as you said, it takes time. Vulnerability takes time. So with the people that you work with, do you work with both women and male gender
I
specific?
have, I do. Of course, when you're marketing yourself, they always say market your pinpoints. So I'm always
Yeah.
going towards women, but I actually I've almost equally men as women that I've worked with.
Yeah. Are you finding that the vulnerability piece is quite a huge thing for them, like to be able to open up?
That is common among everybody. I mean, it is, and I think the older we get, the more walls we have up, the more stuff we have to get real with ourselves on. If we want to go to the next level, if you want the rest of your life to be the best years of your life, sometimes you have to walk through the mud and you have to go through the jungle and the hard times, and getting through the things that you would rather just be like getting dirty. Like, okay, I just don't want to do all that, but I
Yeah.
want to have that. It doesn't. I haven't ever seen that that's how it works. So I've realize, okay, so there are times you just have to just know that you sometimes have to go through some things, and it might not be all pretty and pleasant in the beginning, but you're investing in yourself, and you will, work through those things to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. So something you said earlier as well, which is being your authentic self, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be mean. You're coming from a place of goodness. It's like, I'm just going to say it as it
Right.
is. I'm just keeping it real. That kind
No,
of
no,
attitude,
I think,
that's not what we're alluding to here at all.
no, I think when you find self-love, it is very hard to even be rude to somebody else. I mean, it really is, because when you have self-love, your relationship with yourself is an extension to every other relationship you have. So when you love yourself and you know your value and you know your worth and you know how hard it's been to get there, you have more of your love. If you have self-love, you are love. So when you are love and you're coming to this world from a place of love, and every day you're trying to create the best version of yourself, you're not going to come from judgment. There's not going to be judgmentalness. There's not going to be harshness. There's not going to be, we're human. Don't get me wrong. There could be times that our buttons get pushed and we have to go back and apologize. But I'm saying as a whole, as a normal everyday thing, you're showing up in a way that that you're giving out the best of you. So when you're showing up authentic, you're showing up in a good place. You're showing up in a place that when you go to bed at night, you can sleep good, knowing, I did the best I could do today. I brought the best I could bring to the day. And that's what I'm meaning of being your authentic self, like, finding out, the things that make you happy and make you, just more excited about life and more vibrant and more at peace, and just all the things that you're looking for and your happiness. That comes whenever you are truly living authentic, because I lived an unauthentic life for almost 50 years. So I know what it feels like to show up every day. I was showing up every day just trying to get through the hours. Like, what time is it? Okay, I want to get in bed. So how many more hours so I can get in bed? I just wanted through the day. Let's just get this day over with. And then it would start over the next day, the same thing. And I just want to get this day over with. And so when you get to the place that you're like, okay, I don't have to live like this anymore. Every day I wake up like when you're a kid going on a field trip, like, who am I going to meet today? What am I going to get to do today? Like, what's the day going to bring me? And I wake up with an excitement of, I have another day of life. I'm so thankful for this. And, who can I share with? Who can I reach out to? Who can I, speak positivity into? Because I know we live in a world that's people, I just assume people have it because I'm blessed to have it, but people that I talk to, and I did a book signing not that long ago, and a couple of the ladies would just kept coming back and hugging me and kept coming back. They just couldn't get enough. And I'm like, because I was just speaking life into them when they were sharing things. And I didn't realize at the time, I had to go back and think, why would they keep hugging me? But it was like they were so dried up, and that I was just speaking that the possibilities and, that the excitement for life, and that you can rewrite your story, and, you can, and, they just could not get enough of that. So I know we live in a world that people don't get enough positivity in their life, and knowing that, you have like that cheerleader behind you, that you got this, I believe in you.
Oh, I just want to highlight a number of things that you said there, Valerie, so beautifully expressed. Firstly, that self-reflection and celebrating yourself. Going to bed at night and to say, what did I do great today? That self-acknowledgement is so important, because we're not always going to get the validation from somebody else, but that self-validation and acknowledgement is so powerful. I say to my clients, look, before you go to bed or at some point of the day, celebrate yourself. At least 10 or big wins, small wins, whatever that can be for the day. You also spoke about gratitude, being thankful, the power of gratitude to help us along our self-love journey as well. The love that we give to others, our self-love, so powerful in that aspect too. And I was like, just listening to you thinking, I love that. I love that, because sometimes people say, oh, you're so positive all of the time. I'm not positive. There's a difference between like toxic positivity. I am positive, but I do have down days. No, I do have down moments. Of course I do, because we're human.
Exactly.
It's the waves of life.
I have them too. It's just,
we have them. I just choose not to stay there. Right. I found ways to be able to shift and move forward. Yes. Now, I am imagining that your book, Maksymizing Life, is kind of around that concept. I would love to hear a little bit more about that book that you've written and what readers could expect to receive from it.
Yes. It's my first book. I have another one coming, but I'm very excited about my first book, and long story short, I did everything myself. I wrote it, I edited it, I I did everything because I had a company that I was using, and unfortunately they weren't legit. So I'm very proud of the book, even though it's my first book. And so in the book, I really wanted to just give people awareness of topics, let's just say, because people don't always take the time to think about self-love or limiting beliefs or letting your walls down. Like, we don't just walk around and that comes in our head and, hey, I'm going to think about this and what does it mean?
Yeah.
So when I wrote the book, I wrote it to be it's a short book. It's an easy read. Each chapter is individual, because I know when I was broken and I was hurt and I was down, and if you were to hand me a big complex book, I'd be like, okay, that's too much for me right now. I can barely breathe. And if I'm going to have to really think, it's kind of like on days that, you might be having a moment and you want to put a chick flick on because you don't really want to think and you just want to like, okay, so then you have to like follow every step of the movie and be like so into it. So the way I wrote the book was just to be each chapter freestanding and giving people things to think about. And after each chapter, there's a little place for notes. And what I found, people that have read the book, they come back to me, and I love when they share what they receive from it, because it's very interesting that people receive way different things than even what I was writing about, right? Because we all come from different backgrounds and different things, and self-love to somebody else might have a different take, and they might have a different way to come around to find their own self-love. And so in the first 4 chapters is basically my first 4 chapters is of how you go from surviving every day like I did. Like I say, I'm just waking up to get through the day, having panic attacks, feeling depressed, just not wanting to get out of bed. How do I get through each day? Yeah. To where you're actually excited to get up, and you're getting up early. I get up a lot of times now at 4:30 or 5 a.m. and I'm excited for the day, and I have my hour for myself in the morning, and I do all my things to get my energy going. And that doesn't just happen overnight. So the first 4 chapters, I really talk about how I had that mindset shift, how I was able to, okay, this is what I had to do in order to then move forward. And in chapter 1, I talk about a little briefly about, it was an analogy kind of thing, a story that came into my head that I spoke out when I was driving. I had to pull over actually and speak it into my recorder so I wouldn't forget it, because I've never had this happen before. This whole thing was coming to me, and I'm like, okay, pull over, speak it out. And it really said, Valerie, it said, you have been in control of your happiness in your life, your entire life. And he said, it said, you have not soared in life. You have not taken off because your airplane is stacked full with heavy baggage. And it's physically too heavy to take off. Yeah. It's impossible. You can go down the runway, but it's not taken off. Like, it is that heavy. And when we're weighed down with anger and resentment and fear and rejection and disappointments, and you're so heavy. You show up every day, you're so heavy. You're just like, you're not gonna be in a position to go soar and conquer the world, because you're so weighed down that it's impossible. And so it was like, basically it was telling me in this vision, if you want to call it, that when I decided to one by one start looking inward and investing in myself and healing, one bag was thrown out at a time. Okay, that baggage was thrown out. This one was thrown out. That one was thrown out. And all of a sudden, my plane became so light because I got rid of all of it. And now it said, you're going to soar to places that you never thought possible, because your plane is light. And in life, I feel so light. I feel so, like, every day I show up, I don't have a heaviness. I don't have a heavy breathing. I have this just this light, happy knowing that, every day good things are going to happen. And when things do hit that aren't good, I'm going to have enough knowing to how to work through them, how to navigate them. And so once you get through that, and I had, forgiving others for me was easier than forgiving myself. I had things that I allowed my kids to go through in relationships, and it affected their lives. And so by me seeing how I affected their lives, very, very, very difficult to forgive myself. Like and that was the hardest thing. And I just cried at my kids and like, Mom, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. I can't forgive myself. I mean, it was just, and they're like, no, it's really okay. But that was the hardest thing, was for me to forgive myself. And then once I did that, I was in a place to, okay, now what? What is self-love? If I'm even going to go on this journey, what is self-love? What is self-love not? How do I even find self-love? So it's baby steps every day. caring for yourself like you would of a person that you love the most in this world, whatever that looks like. If you're having a moment and you're just having a little rough day and that little cappuccino in Starbucks makes you happy, then you go in there and get you that cappuccino. You
Yeah.
do things that bring some happiness to you. And it's just little baby steps as you find your self-love. And so that's chapter 2 is talking about the self-love. And then I went into, okay, so now I'm kind of finding self-love, but I have all these voices in my head that are telling me why I can't do everything I want to do. I mean, you're too old, you don't have enough money, you don't have a college education, you've already been married twice. And I just all the things that, you're just like, your head's just swimming with everything holding you back from where you're wanting to go. So we talk about, those are called limiting beliefs, and we talk about those and how to replace them with positive affirmations, and how they're always going to come to your head. I don't care if they still come to my head. I don't speak on them or act on them. In fact, when they do come to my head, I speak out the opposite.
Okay.
I literally speak out the opposite. So my subconscious, so I can consciously hear that, I'm not going to fall for that mind game. So I talk about that. And then chapter 4, I talk about the correlation between, when your walls go up and your walls come down, it's the same as, your vulnerability. When the walls come down, you're becoming vulnerable, and the importance of bringing your walls down, because there's so many beautiful things the world has for us, and each person individually, and we have gifts and talents and people that need to come in our lives and opportunities, and we're all connected to people. And I could be having myself in a place, and you could know someone who you say, oh, Valerie this, and then she connects with me, and then I do that. Like, you don't know how all that's going to play out in life if you're not showing up as your true, authentic, best self, right? So when those walls come down and you're willing to do, like I said, speak your voice, be who you are, stand, tall, be in your confidence, know your self-love. It's all works together. And you're showing up every day as your best self. And I feel like when you get to that point, it's like, the world is at your hand. But for me, I have all of these goals. And with my ADD, I start all of them and I don't finish them. So I wrote a formula. It's called F plus C is M square. So focus plus consistency equals motivation and momentum. So I talk about how when you have to first identify the goal you're going for, know exactly what it is. And then we write out an action plan. I teach you how to write out an action plan of certain action items that you will commit to.
Yeah.
We circle our top 3 that you'll commit to for whatever days it is, 30, 60, 90 days. You're going to do it like the sun rises as the sun sets. Period. You're going to follow those actions. Okay. And when you follow those actions and stop focusing on the goal, you're going to get there in time, right? So if you're trying to lose weight and all you do is focus on the scale, and for 60 days, 90 days, that's all you do.
Yeah.
You're going to get frustrated. You're going to be like, I didn't lose anything. I gained weight. I'm going to go eat pizza. This isn't working. But if we have this plan and we say, okay, for these days, you're going to get to circle. I make them give me like 20 things that they could do to lose weight, and then circle the top 3. Those top 3 you're doing because you chose them for 90 days. And I promise you, if you do them like you're supposed to in 90 days, you're going to see results on your weight loss because you followed the actions. Yeah. And by seeing the results, you are going to be, you're going to be motivated because you're going to be like, oh, wow, your belief system's going to come up. You're going to believe in yourself. I did it. I can do this. You're going to reevaluate. And then you're going to be like, okay, I could drop this X, I don't have to really eat that much on this meal. And I could probably do about 15 more minutes of cardio here. And you get so excited. And then that creates momentum. And so that momentum then is like, you're so excited. So you start reaching these goals. And then what happens, I talk about people will reach their goals and then they quit because they reach their goals. So what happens 60 days, 90 days later, they contact you and say, I put all my weight back on.
Yeah.
And so I also teach that, okay, just because you reached your goal doesn't mean you're done. Now you have to reevaluate and reset it, whether it's a goal that's just going to keep you, just keep you stable. You're just going to stay where you're at. You're just, that's okay. But what do we need to do, to just keep you where you're at for you not to, put more weight on? So then we rewrite the plan. And so that goes with anything in life, whatever your goals are. So I wrote that plan. And then in my book, my kids talked a little bit. They shared a little bit about how their life was affected when mom was who she was, back in the day when I had no self-love, didn't know who I was, and just basically just they witnessed it. They never saw me laugh. They never saw me smile. They never saw me happy. And to where I'm at today, my kids have all healed by just watching me. And I've had kids on drugs and jail and all kinds of stuff that I've had my kids go through stuff.
Yeah.
And I never said a word to them when I went on my healing journey. I never told them to do anything. I just started healing. And then I started noticing they started changing. And then when I started my life coaching, maybe I don't know if it's been quite 2 years ago, when I started my life coaching, I asked my kids, I said, I want to start coaching with you because my kids are older. They're 20 to 32 right now. So I asked them, I said, I want to start life coaching with you because I want my family to be healthy and whole before I start giving out to the world.
Yeah.
And so we did through Zoom because they're older. They don't live with me. So we did through Zoom. I found out so many things about my kids because I just listened and coached and provided them a safe space to share with me in their healing journey. And it was just, I don't know, it was just, to me, that was just the most rewarding thing of the whole thing, to know that when you heal yourself and to see it firsthand that it ripples out, and it does. So when you just think, oh, it doesn't matter, but it does. So when you become your best version, be ready to start seeing family members that are close family members healing. And then you'll start seeing extension and extension and extension, and it will keep growing. And it will be because you are the person that stood up and said, okay, my generations from here on out aren't going to go this way.
Yeah.
We're going to change this. We're going to change our mindsets, our, the way that we do things, our belief system, and we're meant for more, and we're going to, achieve more, do more, be more.
Mm.
And so like I said, they wrote a little bit. And then at the end, I gave a 30-day challenge.
Oh, what a powerful book. That's such a journey that you take the reader on, isn't it? It's just like, oh, that's where you were. You got the self-love piece, you got the limiting beliefs, you got the lovely share, the personal share. What a wonderful, wonderful experience the readers will have by actually tapping into that book. It sounds so powerful, Valerie. And I want to celebrate you for actually going out there and sharing it so people can have that. Can have that as a useful tool. And I love the fact that you've got note sections as well. But absolutely great.
I knew everybody would take different chapters and different topics in a different way. And that's totally fine. We are not on the same journey, and we don't all come from the same places, same background, same religion, same everything. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, we want you to find your healing. So whatever that means, you take whatever you take from each of the chapters, and you're on your path of healing and investing in yourself. So that's kind of why I did that.
Yeah, it's such a useful way to actually help people along their healing journey. You have experienced a great deal. And as you said, you are a beacon of encouragement. And I can sense that just for having a conversation with you. I can feel your energy. I can just feel how authentic you are. And I'm sure everybody listening to this or watching this can feel this too. And I am curious, because I know you spoke about your king, in terms of what is your personal definition of love, Valerie, on a romantic front? What does that mean to you?
It's to me, if I'm like romantically fantasizing it, it's every day when I get home from work, I come home to my best friend, and, we can cook in the kitchen together. We can sit down and talk on the back porch, or go on a walk, or, plan trips together, and really sit down and pull the best out in each other, because there's always more to give. As I become more of a public speaker and there's always more I can learn and give and talk, and okay, I still hold back a lot of things I've been through, and I'm realizing that, and people are like, you really haven't quite been able to really share your story, and I'm not really quite 100% healed, I think, on some things, but 90%. But when you're with that person who's your king, they make you feel safe, and it's okay. And this is what the world needs. And vice versa, as I'm, sharing with them, and just being able to just communicate too, in a way that it doesn't matter what they say or what I say, we can communicate, because if it's on your heart and you're feeling that, then okay, let's talk about it, and always making each other feel like at the end of the day that you're my most important person, even though we give out to a lot of other people. When we come home, we're coming home to our safe place. We're coming home to our happy place. We're coming home to, what brings us joy, what brings us happiness. And then I like envision, my house being decorated like I would want it decorated like a queen. And, you're just coming home to your castle and that's your safe haven. And then when we go out in the world, we're out helping other people. But each time we come back, my king will essentially, I have to fill my cup up, but they're complimenting me, right? They're helping and helping, we're just continually being each other's biggest cheerleader, I think is what I would say at the end of the day on that.
Yeah. I just love that definition. It just feels so safe. It feels really exciting as well. The way that you describe it sounds really excitement. And it's important in a relationship to have excitement, no?
It is. And, some people are like, you just dream so big. Don't we all want that in life? And I said, yeah, but if you don't dream big and you're not planning for it and you're not expecting it and you're never going to have it. So, I'm going to shoot for the stars. Like I'm going to shoot big. Like I'm not just going to say, I want some average person that's just going to be okay and isn't going to cheat on me and is going to provide money for me in a house to live in. I mean, to me, that's living. I mean, then there's some people that just want a basic life and that's okay. I want an extraordinary life. So I want the extra. And I'll go the extra mile to have the extra, so I will put myself out there. I will wait. If I'm going on a date and it's not the right person, I'm not going to be rude to the person by any means, but I'm not going to keep investing in what I know this would not be my forever. And
I completely feel that, because I don't think that we often give ourselves permission to dream and to dream big, because we have these limitations, we have these limited beliefs, or it's a projection of somebody else's opinions and judgments on us that stop us from dreaming.
Where you focus is where you go. There's two sides to every story. So if you want to be the person that looks at how many divorces there are, then you're going to focus there and it's doom and gloom. And there's no such thing as the relationship you're talking about. It doesn't exist. I know people that have the relationship I want and it's genuine. They've been together for many, many years. I'm going to focus there. I'm going to focus on, I love when I meet people who have been together forever and they're still happy, especially when they're little elderly couples and they're holding, he's opening the door. I love to hear their stories. I love to talk to them. I notice it. I'm like, wow, what you guys just seem so happy and so in love, and they are, and they share, and but it hasn't always been easy, but we're each other's, and you learn. So my focus is on everything I told you. I know it's possible. So my focus goes there. Now, if I were to get on and watch news and read articles and read statistics and the divorce rates and all this and this, that, and the other, I probably wouldn't be able to stay so focused and so excited, because it's going to fill my head with confusion and it's going to fill my head with, these what ifs. So I have to be really mindful of what I put in my head. And I also like to remind people too on relationships. Yes, maybe 50% divorce rate for your first marriage and 60 for the second and 70 for your third. This will be my third marriage. But they don't really tell you that I feel like, okay, let me explain this. So people don't heal after their first marriage. They jump in the second one. So, and I did that. I went boom, boom.
Yeah.
So I've taken 8 years to heal and to grow and to get myself to a place that I'm healthy and I don't have all this baggage that I was weighing me down in this airplane. So now that's why now all the more I want to find a king who is healthy and whole. So that way we have a better chance of our marriage being forever, right? Because now we're not both coming with the whole airplane full of baggage. And then now we're trying to put both of our airplanes full of baggage together and make this work. I mean, that's coming from a place that, from what I can see, would be you're coming from a deficit right out of the get-go, right from the beginning. So it's so important. And I know it's hard, but it's so important to take that time out and invest in yourself. I have always been with someone, always lived with someone, I'm 18 years old. And so for me, for the last 8 years to be with myself, that is something I would have told you never will happen. Like literally, I was 6 months after my divorce trying to find someone I wanted to marry. But in my heart, something kept telling me, you need to learn you need to know I just began working on me. And it doesn't have to take someone 8 years, because I didn't have back. I don't even know why. Like I really just, these whole podcast things and listening to positivity has just been a new thing for me. I don't know. Maybe it was around then. I just didn't know about it. But, now being able to plug into things, I think I know you can get yourself somewhere faster if you, work on you and stay to your plan.
Absolutely. Like purchasing your book is one great way forward in order to help people along their journeys. 100%. Valerie, you have shared so much, and we're going to bring this conversation, this beautiful dance of a conversation, to a close. And you are so right. You know, energy flows where attention goes. And where we put our focus is so important. If we want to attract that love life or whatever your dreams and your desires are, focus on that, not on the lack, focus on the abundance. And so many people focus on the lack rather than on the abundance that can come. So I would love you shared so much, but is there one key takeaway that you could leave our listeners with that can help them along their journey of love, life, and relationships?
One thing I just like people to really get in their head and really think about is you are your longest relationship. And not only that, every relationship you have is an extension from the one you first have from yourself. So if that relationship with yourself is not spot on, the best you want it to be, I would recommend looking inward and invest in yourself and start working there, because you're not going to fix these other relationships that you're wanting to fix until you're able. And I know that's hard to hear because that was hard for me to hear. But if you could just really, think on that and just really see what that resonates in your soul as you really think about healing your relationship with yourself and becoming the best version of yourself, it will take you so far in life.
That's a beautiful takeaway. It really is. That self-love piece. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful. People underestimate the power of it. They think self-love is egotistical or it's self-centered, or it's not that at all. It really is just about honoring yourself, respecting your mind, your body, your spirit, whatever that means for you.
Right. Yeah.
Valerie, thank you so much for this conversation. If people listening, watching would love to get in contact with you, follow you, how best can they reach out to you?
I made it pretty easy. So my handles on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is Maksymizing Life. That's the name of my book. So it's Maksymizing Life. And then if anybody wants to reach out to me, I have a website, maksymizing.life.com. So I try to make it pretty easy.
And I can make it even easier. I'm going to drop all of the links as well into the show notes. Right. So you can just click on it if you need to do so. So again, Valerie, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's been so exciting. You shared so much of us all. And I want to thank you for your time and your energy for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being on here. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And for everybody who has tuned in today, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention and your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourself and others too.